Each year, the Honor Roll Committee accepts nominations to include anyone connected to the Pottsgrove School District. Individuals could include former teachers, graduates, administrators, secretaries or custodians, volunteers from PTOs and booster clubs, and school board members. And one of our school board members is with us today. She is for probably has been to more events and celebrations than probably any board member in the history of Pottsgrove. Mrs. Patty Grimm is in the back there, and I'd like to acknowledge Patty. She was just recognized by the state of Pennsylvania this year for 12 years of service to the Pottsgrove School Board. So in dog years, that's like 50 years in school board service. From those nominations, the committee selects the individuals to be honored at this luncheon and to be forever recognized on a perpetual plaque in the district office. So you can see the members of this select group in your program today in that attachment. And this year's inductees are once again a very impressive group who have truly distinguished themselves during and after their days at Pottsgrove. So let's meet them now. So to the stage, I'd like to introduce our first inductee. And to do that is Carolyn Dillon.
Thank you for inviting me today, and I am especially proud that you've allowed a class of 62 graduate from Pottstown High School to invade you this afternoon. I nominated Kendria. She is my cousin. My husband and I purchased our home in Upper Pottsgrove 43 years ago, and Kendria basically came with the property. As she was not only my cousin, she was also my neighbor. So I've known Kendria pretty much since she was a little tyke. Throughout the years, I have watched her grow. I've watched her take her Pottsgrove High School education and become an outstanding leader in the field of alcohol and drug rehabilitation over the past, well, we'll say 25, but there's probably a different number in mind. Our family is very proud of her. She's very unpretentious. If you go to her house, you will never see the plaques unless you go into her personal inner sanctum. We know Kendria is much happier having a beer and playing a good game of Scrabble. But again, that's our Kendria. Again, with pride, I have used her as an example to my own students at Kutztown University, saying, what can you do with what your parents and grandparents have given you with the foundation of your own public education? So with that, I'll introduce Kendria Bryan Mcwilliams to you. Thank you. They've even allowed me to present you with your plaque today.
That's very lovely.
Nobody embarrassed.
Thank you so much. Hey, everybody. Thank you, Carolyn. Can you all hear me? Okay? All right. This one? No. This will be fine. All right. So Carolyn, as I think probably all of you know, has been an educator for over 40 years and a mentor to many. She has great passion for learning. She has great integrity, and her service to others has always set an example for me. I'm thinking that if you're here on a Saturday afternoon with many competing things for your time during a holiday season, that you're all part in some way of the backbone of what makes Pottsgrove High School and the Pottsgrove system a really, really fine example of an entity that can shape not only the minds of students, but can instill confidence in who we can all become. It's a tremendous honor for me to be here and a privilege to represent Pottsgrove alumni. Congratulations, too, to my fellow honorees, Bob and Jonas. I've had opportunities, many opportunities to leave, but I'm a very, very proud member of the Pottstown community. I've had offers to go in different positions throughout the state, different states throughout the United States, and I just feel very, very connected here to my roots. I have dozens of relationships which began in elementary school and high school, and some of these people are among my closest friends today, and some of these people are among my professional colleagues. I've had a very, very good fortune to spend my career doing what I love, together with some really, truly inspired leaders from my own organizations, from state organizations, government agencies, and other partners throughout the nation and in our own backyards. I build systems to help people rebuild their lives. And it's an incredibly wonderful opportunity. It's very challenging, it's very rewarding, it's very exciting. And the people who actually deliver the services, who actually do the work, who do it every day, work under an enormous amount of pressure, an enormous amount of challenging circumstance. And that's been pre-COVID, and as we can all imagine, what COVID has done. And they earn my respect and gratitude every day. The education that started at Pottsgrove very much helped to prepare me for the future. My teachers were engaged, they were caring, they gave me not just the book knowledge, but some experiences, kindness, discipline, and compassion. I'm thinking that the people who were my teachers then would never really have looked at me and said, oh, that's going to be a student that takes with her what I'm trying to instill, but I actually did. I listened, I gained a great deal from every minute that I spent in those schools. Our chapters in math classes, statistics, and the time value of money, they got me going. They were of great interest to me, and they were concepts that my parents had given me, the concept of working hard, of earning and investing. That's what struck home for me. I had my first job in a clothing store and a bank account with my own earnings at age 15. My next job was a co-op arranged through Pottsgrove High School. I worked at a bank. Didn't like that much, but I did pay attention there, and I learned. By the time I was 18, I had my own car and a stock portfolio. So thank you to Mr. Getz. Mr. Getz, he really did launch a very keen interest in me in turning nickels into quarters at a very early age. I mentioned that some of my closest friends still today are those forged in elementary and high school, and one of the people I'm referencing is Trish Winterbottom. Trish and I graduated together, and we're still close today. Her father was the athletic director when we were in school, and through the years, Mr. Winterbottom, Mo Winterbottom to me, he was my friend, and he wanted me to be successful. He wanted me to be engaged. He wanted me to be an adult that could achieve something. And when his daughter and the rest of my friends went to college and I did not, I realized that I missed them and that I wanted to go. And he was one of the two people that really did inspire in me confidence and the ability to do that. He made me feel like I could do whatever I wanted to do. And that was what Mo Winterbottom did for me. So he, along with my first boss at Eagleville Hospital, were the prime motivators behind my receiving my BA and my MBA. Eagleville was and is a regional behavioral health hospital treating people with addiction and mental health and medical disorders. And that's where I was a year after graduation. And I got that job, by the way, partly due to my ability to type really, really, really fast. There were a lot of people looking for that job, and that was way back when the interview process was not as complex as it is today, and by the next day, I had my first, full-time job in a hospital. And I learned how to do that by Mr. Beamer. So thank you, Mr. Beamer. My first boss there was Al Black, and he was a really wonderful human being. He was very, very bright. While at Eagleville, I learned from some incredibly talented people, renowned experts in behavioral health, medical professionals, researchers, clinicians, administrators, and They all taught me how to think strategically for the benefit of the whole. I learned from the bottom up. I had every administrative job in that place for about 10 years, and eventually I was named as CEO. We were a very unique set of professionals. The senior management group back then was comprised of 12 directors who represented different nationalities, different ethnicities, abilities, sexual preferences, and cultures. And today, we call that cultural competence. Back then, we called it the mini UN, and it was all just about meeting the needs of the people that we served. One day, I got a phone call from my director of nursing, and she said, "Hey, I just hired somebody who says that she knows you." And I went to meet her, and it turned out to be Barbara Schmoyer, another lovely woman who I had grown up with. Barbara and I met in kindergarten. We had play dates together. She has some very embarrassing photos of me from her second grade birthday party, but we won't go there. But we enjoyed a lot together through the years. We had the same piano instructor. We played duets in the local competitions, and we did that until we were in our late teens. We grew up with the same philosophies, the same values. And she was and is a fabulous nurse, and she turned out to be my director of nursing. And we spent about 20 years together at Eagleville. And Eagleville grew into a 350-bed specialty hospital. And we had some very, very special components that you don't typically think of in relationship to a treatment provider, like licensed teachers who helped our long-term patients in Montgomery County get their GEDs. We had a YMCA, which we housed the outpatients who did not have secure and stable housing. We had the first in the nation contract with then Commissioner Marty Horn, who was the state's Commissioner for Corrections, and he charged us with treating and employing 400 nonviolent offenders through a 3-year contract. It was the first in the nation, and it turned out to be just a wild success. Outcomes were just fabulous. And we also had, in Bucks County, a 30-seat alternative school for kids, adolescents that were too severely behaviorally impacted to be served in the public school system. Barbara and I remain friends today. We went through some yearbooks a couple weeks ago because we were fascinated. I didn't even know that this existed. I am thrilled that you guys do this. It's a nice thing to do, and it indicates pride in community, value in community, and to me that's really, really, really special. So Barb and I, we get together with friends from high school, our professional associates, and some of the people, some of you in the room probably remember fondly some of these people, like Betsy Finkelson, Jan Catch, Kim Diener, Sue Mack, Sue Shelley, Barb Taroni. I mean, we had some good times, and it's great. I graduated and gained much more than an education through my years at Pottsgrove. And today I continue as the CEO for Maryville Addiction Treatment Centers, which is one of the largest of its type in the U.S. And I love what I do. I love it, and I really am. My success is all about the people who helped build me. I have a wonderful husband, John, who's here. My daughter is Julia. She always loves public attention, so I'll talk about her for a little bit. Yeah. Julia is also an Ursinus graduate. She's a wonderful mother, I have to say, a wonderful mother, an accomplished equestrian, and an entrepreneur with a large and growing tennis business. My son is a successful film editor in New York, so I'm very proud of my kids. I am an example of the power of education. Thank you all for what you taught me, for what you gave me, for everything that you do for all the students that you see every day. It's a benefit to everyone in the community for your participation. So thank you.
think you took my notes. You can tell she's the boss when she takes your notes, so congratulations. To introduce our next inductee is Robert Brandt, but to introduce him is former state representative, Mr. Bob Rieber.
My remarks will be a little bit shorter. Thank you very much, Gary. It's a pleasure to be here today, being a member of this August Society, having been inducted back in 2003. It's really an honor. It's really an honor, I must say that. I'm here today to present one of my long time friends. Let me just start by taking you back to 1972. My wife, Beverly, who's the chairman of this August body at the present time, she and I returned from Ohio, having my graduation from law school about 3 months earlier. And she was geared up to be a first-time teacher at Pottsgrove High School. And school was in session for a week or two, and she came home and said, "You're not going to believe who's in my senior study hall." She was teaching 7th grade English, by the way. Mr. Brandt. And there was a lot that she had to say about him, most of which I knew because I did know Bob somewhat, but I knew his family, his father very well, and it was really the start of a very great relationship. And I say that because following his graduation, he attended Ursinus College, majored in history, got the departmental award for history down there, and also was on the dean's list. Interestingly enough, when Bob matriculated through high school, he was very much involved in student government, representing, if you will, the interests of the students, and that really followed him quite a bit through his professional life. But when he graduated from Ursinus in '77, he was sort of unique compared to most of my friends that went to law school. We did the trick in 3 years and we're out practicing in the real world as a result of that. Bob was interesting. He began driving for UPS following college as he was trying to decide, when he decided to become involved in the law school racket, if you will, and running through that particular matriculation of 3 years. Well, the 3 years wound up being 7 years till he actually got his degree. I think, though, the on-site experience that he got for many years working at our law firm in Pottstown, Rainier, Crocker, Allbach, and Rieber at the time. We've since gone our separate ways, and that firm no longer exists. Bob was very much involved in, as I said earlier, student government. And in 1980, while he was clerking for a law firm, I actually ran when Bill Yon retired from representing the western segment of Montgomery County in the House of Representatives here in Pennsylvania. I ran for that office and was successful in winning that in 1980 and 8 subsequent terms for an 18-year career. And during the time Bob was with us, he was ex officio chairman of everything and anything that I did when I was out on the political campaign trails. And it was something that was very important for both of us because I was a municipal attorney, did an awful lot of work in that area as well as a number of other areas. Bob, following his graduation from Temple Law School in 1984, did in fact gain a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, a practical knowledge as well as the legal aspects of that particular profession with us, and has really matriculated through the land use development, municipal law, land development processes with land developers as well as how it's regulated by the townships. And in 1990 or thereabouts, he wound up hooking up with a gentleman by the name of Tom Keenan in Collegeville and worked at that law firm for a number of years. And in 2000, he decided, things are going really well for me. I think I want to try this kind of operation on my own with his own practice. And he opened up his law firm in Collegeville, and it's a very successful law firm. I'm honored to say that in 2006, I retired from a government affairs practice with the law firm of Deckard, a large international law firm originating in Philadelphia. and I handled their Harrisburg operations. But it was a tremendous amount of opportunity that Bob had, we both had, in the political sphere as well as the legal sphere, that has put him in a position where today I can honestly say that he is one of the top 5 municipal land use developing attorneys in Montgomery County, if not in all of Southeast Pennsylvania. And it's a tremendous feeling to see that matriculation that he had working with us at times has really turned him into head and shoulders above anybody in our firm from the days that I was working there. Bob really has gone on in the community to do awful lot of things. He's a founder and board of director at Victory Bank here in Limerick. He's a member emeritus at the Ursinus College. He's also very much involved with a number of engineering firms where he's on boards with those particular organizations. And frankly, I have to say that he is truly, truly worthy of the honor being bestowed by the Pottsgrove School District's Honor Roll Committee. And at this point in time, Bob, if you want to step up here and say a few words, it'd be appreciated. By the way, my plaque is nowhere near as large as these that I got. I'm going to have to talk to Gary after the meeting.
Thanks. Almost brings tears to my eyes, but thanks, Bob. You date yourself when Bob reminded you that I met his wife, Bev, as a senior at Pottsgrove in 1973, and she was a first-year teacher. That's how you date yourself, and then you become friends with both Bob and Bev for all these years, and it's been a great relationship for a long time. Particularly, Bob did me a great service. I went to law school at night. That's why it took me so long. And he got me a job and got me some money when I needed it. So I'm forever grateful to Bob. My wife, Diane, has been an educator for over 40 years, retired 3 years now. Worked at Wissahickon School District, knew Gary Dorenzo in his role there, retired as a German and French teacher. So education is in our family. We have 3 kids, all of whom are happily married, 2 of which are working in schools. And we have some grandkids that we're proud of. So having said that, just give you an anecdote or two. When you walk into a room and you see teachers that you haven't seen before, or haven't seen, I'm sorry, not before, but you haven't seen since you walked out of the high school, you have a hard time calling them by their first name. So we're sitting with Jim Basil and Bob Reel, and I really didn't call them Jim and Bob till the salad course hit. Bev's always been Bev, but you get used to calling teachers by their, Mr. and Mrs. and Ms., et cetera, and that. So, and I also want to congratulate my co-inductees today as well for this great honor. The Pottsgrove High School that I attended had 125 people in the class, in my class, my graduating class. You knew just about every one of them, and just about every one of them knew you. And that's changed. I remember the first day, we were going to the same school, had kids from 7th through 12th grade. So I remember, the 7th grade version of me, running through the hallway, trying to make sure I didn't miss the bus or running to lunch, and dealing with, students that were, years older, kids that were shaving, and, you're running around the halls just trying to escape from class to class. So it's a different school today, but what I think you have the same glue as at the school, and that's all of you educators. Some people call you teachers. The same glue is there that was when I was there, and I'm indebted, as Kendria indicated, I'm indebted to the teachers that helped me create some of the tools that help me do things now. And it was greatly appreciated. I can remember, I could probably sit here in about 10 minutes or 15 minutes and write down every teacher that I ever had, starting in elementary school and probably through the high school. It might take me 30 minutes to do that. But I can remember every teacher, and I'm particularly indebted to several of them, some of whom are not here today, not just physically in this room, but are just not here. Charles Natoli was a fabulous English teacher. I tended to interest in government, history, and writing and reading. I wasn't such a good science or math person, so I'd have to apologize to, Clyde Dry, who would not be here, and others. Ralph Merja was a wonderful teacher of mine, and I could go on and on, but they all know who they are. The person I really wanted to see today is not here. Addison Davidson was probably my favorite teacher at Pottsgrove. Opened a whole world to me. I was, my senior year at Pottsgrove, I attended the National Student Government Conference in Colorado as a result of Addison Davidson's interest in having me be a speaker out there. He opened the world to me in terms of my interest in politics and government and history. So I wish he were here, and he's not, but I'll sure write him a note and thank him. I really think that growing up in Sanatoga, which is where I grew up, today, or when I grew up, is probably different from the way it is now. I was proud to have two wonderful parents and a brother. My father and mother my father had a meat business, and my mother helped him with that. I was relating to these guys at the table that we had a farmer's market stand in Pottstown, that my father would drag me awake at 3:30 in the morning to load the truck and drive the truck to Pottstown. And I was finished work at 7:30 a.m. That was a good job. But it was a great community to grow up in. And one final anecdote, I'm the first person in my family to be college educated. My parents didn't know much about that. And Richard Raydell, who was principal at the high school, was a friend of my father. And he said, hey, Brandt, your kid probably should go to college somewhere. And my dad came home and he said, Dick Raydell said you should go to college somewhere, and he thinks down the street at Ursinus would be a good place to go. You can go there. He went there, and some others went there. So, but for Richard Raydell, I probably wouldn't have pushed myself out the door and gone to college, and that's made all the difference. So I thank everybody in my life at Pottsgrove High School, and I thank you all for this honor today. Thanks.
Quick little story about Mr. Davidson, that he's not here today, but that ball of gum that grew to the size of a basketball is still buried outside the science wing doors there somewhere. So maybe that's a trip that we could take down memory lane and go uncover that one day. Our final inductee, Mr. Jonas Hampton, is next to the dais. And to introduce him is Pottsgrove's retired teacher and our only state championship and state runner-up head cross-country coach, Mr. Larry Recton.
I got a lot of notes. It's always dangerous to turn the mic over to a teacher, especially when they're talking about their favorite subjects, education and students. And it's an honor to introduce Jonas Hampton. So this is what I wrote up. It's hard for the average fan to understand the commitment necessary to be a professional athlete. We all applaud the finished products, the amazingly well-timed alley-oop dunk, the power and speed of a running back bursting through the line, or the finesse of a well-played golf shot that lands precisely on the green. These are moments of beauty and wonder that sports fans admire, but rarely do you appreciate the effort, sacrifice, and discipline that goes into that moment. Through the technology of an app called Strava, that athletes of all levels use to record and make public their daily training. I can give you guys a little sense of what Jonas Hampton does to be ranked among the top marathoners in the U.S. today. Since January 1st of 2021, Jonas has completed 426 runs. And we did one more this morning, so it's 427. He's covered 3,385 miles so far this year. 1 week last spring, he recorded between 130 and 140 miles, so he averaged about 20 miles a day for that week. He spent 355 hours running. Weightlifting, stretching, diet, sleep patterns, etc., would at least double those hours. This is dedicated, would double those hours. Dedicated sport, and those are not posted on Strava. Running professionally is a full-time job. After Jonas graduated from Pottsgrove, I watched his running career with interest. He was, after all, one of the best runners I had the privilege to coach. He left Pottsgrove, a two-time state qualifier in cross country. He had the second fastest 5K cross country time, the second fastest 3,200 meter time in school history. He then moved on to Hartford University, where he had a very good running career. He is again one of the top runners in their program. But these impressive accomplishments did not portend the levels he would later achieve. Jonas graduated from college in 2012 with a degree in civil engineering. At this point, most runners retire from the highly competitive, physically demanding of distance running, and perhaps relegate running to the hobby part of life. Jonas, however, wasn't ready to let go of his dreams and goals. He won the 2015 Hartford Marathon with the second fastest time in that race's history. This time qualified him to run in the 2016 Olympic trials, which were held in LA that year. Although he was with the top runners in the first half of the race, Jonas later faded in the LA heat after a missed water stop. I watched the race unfold on NBC and thought, wow, that was really cool. Jonas got to run in the Olympic trials. He took his best shot. I guess he'll concede that he went as far as his body will take him, and he'll move on to real life. Yes, he continued to work his real-life job as a civil engineer, but the dream of running for a spot on the U.S. Olympic team did not die, and he qualified to run in the 2020 Olympic trials in Atlanta. As I sat on my couch, watching that race unfold again on national TV, I kept one eye on my laptop, where I could simultaneously see in real time each of Jonas's mile splits as he worked his way through the field. I recall breathlessly calling to my wife, Joanne, Jonas just moved into the top 20. Then later yelling, he could make the top 15. And finally, rhymes with spit, Jonas Hampton just placed 8th at the Olympic trials. That's 5 places out of the team that would later go on to run in the Olympics. When I contacted Jonas last week about this intro, I asked him for something that he's been doing lately that might be interesting to share. I assumed he would tell me about a recent race or his current running stats. He did not. Instead, he texted back, fun fact, I've read 18 books since January, and my goal is to read 20 by the end of the year. Okay, maybe he's pandering to an old English teacher here by talking about books. But in retrospect, in essence, this is exactly why he has reached such distinguished running levels. Jonas, as long as I've known him, has lived by setting goals. In middle school, Jonas was driven to beat his dad's best times. By the way, it didn't take long for him to destroy Bernie's times. Today, Jonas still works toward his goal of one day making the U.S. Olympic team. Jonas understands the power of goals and dreams in the heart of a motivated, dedicated person. So, with a couple of weeks left in 2021, is there anyone in this room who doesn't believe Jonas will read 2 more books? Let's introduce a wonderful young man, Jonas Hampton.
All right. Well, I'll keep this actually pretty short. Whoops, stay there. Whether I do get to 2 more books, we'll see what happens. I mean, a couple of weeks, we've got some holidays coming up. But I'd like to thank the committee, for starters, for having this and for the great honor this is. Anytime I could come back home and see old friends and family and teachers, now this time it's a joy. I'd like to thank my parents for basically everything they've embodied on me over the past, well, all of the years of my life. With the hard work ethic that they both have and continue till this day, that's just one of the many reasons why I'm still running. Yes, I do have technically 2 full-time jobs, and yes, it is very tiring a lot of the time. But it's just a joy to do every day, to just get out, go run. And honestly, I could probably talk to you guys to death for hours about running, but you definitely don't want to hear that. I'd like to thank my wife, Mary, for making the trip down here from Boston. It's long when we drive, but we took the train this time, so that's a lot easier to do that. And for all of the early mornings, many early mornings, late nights, and just sacrifices she's had to make over the past years with my training, scheduling, basically travel. With her travel, my travel, sometimes they just don't go together, but I'm so thrilled for that. But most importantly, I would like to thank Mr. Hampton for basically everything from being in high school, from being a coach and a mentor. And ironically, I've never actually had him as a teacher, but sometimes that happens, but still just being that mentor throughout high school and now after graduating, just being a friend and someone to talk to, and when I am home, having someone to run with and just catch up with. Like this morning, went for a run. And we were mentioning this morning that running is a very tight-knit community. You don't have a lot, you have a bunch of friends, but they're a lot closer. And when you go for runs with people, you bond to a different level than you normally do with just regular classmates or even college friends, any teammates, but you're spending hours out there with one another, basically running through blood, sweat, tears sometimes. And I used to run a lot with Mr. Hampton while I was in high school. So that sticks with you. That's one thing that'll always stick with you, no matter how old you get. I'll come back, and if I'm still able to run and he's still able to run, we'll still get together and go for whatever runs we can. And also, we just surround ourselves with good people. And that's one thing I've learned over the past years, just getting older, always surround yourself with good people. And Mr. Hampton, he's definitely one of those good people that I enjoy having in my life. So with that, I'll say thank you for everything. And thank you for this award. Thanks. Okay, thank you.
Real quick story. Mr. Hampton said that you were going to run a little slower than he was prepared for this morning, so he might be taking a nap right after this program. Again, on behalf of the committee and many of my former teachers, I want to say thank you to our 3 inductees. You guys are tremendous ambassadors for Pottsgrove, so thank you very much for all that you do and continue to do, and to make our school district proud. So I hope you have a great day, happy holidays, and thank you, and drive safe.